Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Wednesday Word on January 6, 2021. And it's not only the very first Wednesday Word of 2021, but today is the day of Epiphany, an important holiday in the church calendar. In worship on Sunday morning, we remember together that Epiphany is actually an older holiday in the Christian church than Christmas. The name Epiphany means to reveal, to make visible, to manifest. And in the original celebration of Epiphany, the Christian church celebrated the birth of Christ, the baptism of Christ, and the first miracle of Christ. All three of those firsts in the Gospels of the ways in which Jesus revealed or made visible the love and the nature and the power of God in his life among us. As time passed, we began to associate December 25th with the celebration of Jesus' birth, and typically we have read Luke chapter 2 in celebration of Christmas Day. That's the story in which Jesus is born and Mary puts him in the manger, and the angels tell the shepherds that they should go to Bethlehem to see what has happened. Because Epiphany comes 12 days later, after the 12 days of Christmas on January 6th, we tend to associate Matthew chapter 2 with this day. And that's the story of the wise men following the star to the place where they find Jesus, the newborn king. Now, there are a couple of clues in Matthew's gospel that tell us that this story should come after Luke's story. One is that the wise men find Jesus and Mary in a house rather than at the manger, suggesting that they've had time to find lodging. The other is that after the passage we'll read together today, King Herod is so concerned and upset over keeping his throne that he sends soldiers to the region of Bethlehem to kill all of the children who are 2 years old and younger. And that suggests that maybe not only a few days have passed, but maybe even weeks or months have passed since Jesus' birth. Nevertheless, this is Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 12, that we read together beautifully, appropriately, on this day of Epiphany. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all of Jerusalem along with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child. And when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. And again, this was Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. On a day in which we celebrate how Jesus Christ revealed or made known or made visible the love and the nature of God, there are some interesting ways in which this passage reveals some things about God and about people. First of all, look how God reveals Jesus Christ to the wise men, both by revealing the star that they're able to follow to the place where Jesus is, but also he reveals Jesus to them as the newborn king. Isn't it interesting that they go to the present king, Herod, to ask about the newborn king? And isn't it interesting that Herod has no idea until they tell him, apparently, and that he and all of Jerusalem with him are frightened? I wonder why the rest of Jerusalem is frightened, but I think it has to do with Herod's personality. Knowing that he feels threatened is probably enough to cause most people to feel frightened. In the past couple of weeks in worship, we've read Luke chapter 2, and after the first 20 verses, which have to do with the birth of Jesus, we read on December 27th the story of Simeon and Anna in the temple. And you may remember that in Luke chapter 2, verse 34, Simeon blessed Joseph and Mary and Jesus and said to his mother Mary, "This child is destined for the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be opposed, so that the inner thoughts of many will be revealed," made visible. Well, we find that Jesus is going to become a sign of the rising and the falling of that earthly kingdom of Herod as Jesus establishes his eternal heavenly kingdom. He's going to be opposed. In the following verses, Herod will try to kill Jesus along with all the other children just to be sure. But isn't it interesting how in this very passage, he reveals the inner thoughts of Herod? Herod is looking out for himself. Herod wants to be exalted and glorified, while these wise men have come from a distance to exalt and to glorify Jesus Christ. Maybe that's a lesson for us all. We could live this day in such a way that we're striving to exalt and lift up Jesus Christ, and I bet God would reveal opportunities for us to see God's glory and nature on display through the power of the Spirit working within us. Or we could live through this day hoping that we will be exalted, hoping that people will appreciate and respect and love and admire us, becoming defensive when we feel that we've been slighted, becoming easily insulted, wanting people to pay us the respect that we deserve. If that's the case, we just might miss out on the revelations of Jesus Christ and on those opportunities to see his love and power at work around us. We might miss out on the Epiphany because we're so concerned with ourselves. So on this day in which the love of God is made so visible and we celebrate it through the person of Jesus Christ, I pray that God's love and nature and power are visible to you, that you're able to follow the signs just like a star to be able to encounter the love of Jesus Christ in this day. But I also pray that the love and nature of God are visible in you as you bear witness to the love of Jesus Christ in all the ways that you speak and in all the ways that you act, and even in all the ways that you allow your inner thoughts to process. Well, I've enjoyed spending this moment with you, and I pray that you'll find blessing on this Epiphany Day. And until next week, thank you for joining me for this episode of the Wednesday Word.